Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
You're watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and I have been so excited to wake up today. So excited that I was logged on at 10 o'clock for a 12 p.m. interview, but I'm here nonetheless. And the reason I'm so excited is my guest is Paul Rogers, that I've shared with you before. And Paul is a transformation expert, a coach, an instructor, and I'm not going to go on with the rest because you will find out yourself as the interview continues. Paul, welcome a second time.
Do you know, it's
with Jennylyn.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I always love chatting with you. So this is just a great opportunity and excuse for me to chat. So it's great.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I was so impressed with our first interview. Before we did that interview, I did not know what to expect because I just took a glimpse at your bio. I like to find out about people when I interview them and not know too much ahead of time. But when we did the interview and I found out what you've gone through and your attitude now, I just want to continue speaking to you and sharing you with other people, because if you can be as positive as you are, having gone through what you have, then you have to be shared. Your enthusiasm has to be spread.
Oh, that's super kind, and you know, we bounce energy between us. So to be honest, you know, the dance only works if both people want to actually dance. So to be honest, you know, I'm excited to see where our conversation goes, because it's so much fun.
And that's exactly how I feel. And this is why I have conversations and I do not prepare questions. Just let it flow. So today I thought I would pick up where we left off from our previous interview, which is you got in an accident. You were hit by a train. You, your wife, your child, and your dog. And unfortunately, your dog was sacrificed in his attempt to protect your wife and child. It's a boy, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, 2-year-old at the time.
What happened after you guys were hit? Who found you? How did you get to the hospital? If you could share that with us.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I have to go on third-party accounts because we were out of it. By all accounts, what happened is that the fire service then turned up, and we'd been T-boned by the train. So effectively, they had to cut us off the front of the train because
you were stuck on the front of the train.
Yeah. And it took us about 150 yards down the track. So
the car.
Yeah. And so the service people, the fire brigade and the police and the ambulances all turned up. It's I kind of retraced my steps, because whenever you go to a hospital, you get a hospital card. And I looked in my wallet and I suddenly had 3 hospital cards from hospitals I never remember visiting, because what they did is they took me to a bigger one, and a bigger one, because as they assessed my condition, it was deteriorating. So they had to sort of go up to the next biggest one. And so my wife and I were actually in the same hospital. Now, this is going to and this always pulls at my heartstrings. And of course, the only one who was awake was my son, 2 years old. Mum and dad were so badly injured. So anyone who's a parent or has children, you know, we left a 2-year-old in an accident site with no protection. And so they found our wallets with our sort of details, and they rang my sister-in-law. I mean, what a call to make and what a call to receive.
Right.
And so she said, right, and jumped in the car immediately. And it's a 5-hour drive from her house to where we are, because Quebec's a pretty big place. And she got there because she said, I don't want Sasha is his name. I don't want him putting care and having a care record. So she drove up and
5 hours?
yeah. I mean, Quebec is so big, and I never really appreciated it. You can fit England, the United Kingdom, into Quebec 13 times. It's enormous. And where we actually lived, that was 10 hours north of Montreal. And so this was kind of like halfway. And so it's it's kind of, everyone's given us third-party accounts, including the train diver apparently came to the hospital. He found out where we were, and the poor guy was distraught because, you know, he was just driving a train. He wasn't expecting this. So he was apparently really upset. And of course, the ICU workers were very, very kind, very compassionate. And I don't know whether my wife was awake or not, but the message, I think she must have been awake, is she said, it's not your fault.
He told him that?
Yeah. And to be honest, only a few words, not your fault, 4 words, which actually could make or break his entire life. And so, you know, I'm hoping and I'm praying that actually it is not his fault. I do not hold any blame for anyone. And I think that's a large step in how you heal, is that you actually refuse to give your power away to say it's his fault, her fault, whatever. Okay, it may be, but that is not going to get you anywhere. And the realization is actually you are in control, even if it's an uncontrollable place. No one can make you think that what you don't want to think. You are totally in charge, and it's a choice. You always have a choice. So that was kind of how we got there, and then we woke up, 10 days later. And that's really weird because I didn't even know who I was. People just, they talked to me, are you all right? Are you okay, Paul? And I was like, that means nothing to me at all. And, did I understand them? Maybe not. I have some patchy memories where I actually obviously surfaced. And now I know my reactions were actually very amusing. See, I'm a comic even when I'm...
But you have to bring humor into everything, is my thing. I mean, if you don't laugh, then you will definitely take longer, I think, to recover.
I think you're entirely right. It's not a case of, have a positive attitude. That doesn't get you through the door. But, and it's not something you have to work hard on. It has to be natural. It has to be ease. I mean, people talk about, you got to learn new habits. How many times have you learned a bad habit? You don't. They just seem to find you. You don't actually think, well, I'm gonna concentrate on this bad habit. I'm gonna make it mine. You're just like, bad habit, there it goes. So why should you actually spend the same amount of energy on a good habit? Because you've got to be open and you've got to accept it. So that always kind of amuses me. It just seems to be an imbalance.
But on all the accounts that you have gotten from the people, the first responders, did they say that your body was pretty battered up, and were you all together? Was your wife all together? Because sometimes you hear about these accidents and they're gruesome. And the reason I'm asking is because it really gives us an appreciation for a better and more gratitude for medicine, because they put you back together so well if you were.
Bless them. And yeah, I mean, there's something called the Glasgow scale, which measures consciousness, 15 being perfectly responding and basically 1 or 2 being dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I apparently was number 3 on the Glasgow scale.
Wow.
And I was on respirators for a long while, and they tried to take me off them, and I couldn't. They failed. I couldn't breathe on by myself, so they put me back on them. My wife was a 4, so that's not exactly a great score either. But her injuries were more serious because anyone who's just had the lunch, sit down. She had to have a large part of her scalp removed to let the swelling go. And then
At the scene of the accident or in the hospital?
No, this was in the hospital when we arrived. Apparently they did all these x-rays. I mean, I've had more x-rays than but I'm not aware of them. I see the pictures and I'm like, oh, that's me. But but I can't actually remember them. And but no, she had to have an emergency operation to relieve the pressure because it was building. Mine was very different in that they couldn't operate because it broke all around the back of the neck. So they can't operate in there and in this front cortex here. So both of which are pretty inoperable. So they just had to let me swell up. So I sort of ballooned. And they said, well, we're not going to know what your injuries are until the swelling goes down. So it's kind of like watching the tide go out. And as it did, there was this rock and that rock. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's broken. Yeah, that's not right. And so mine took longer to appear.
I am just blown away that you are sitting across from me, speaking to me intelligently.
Well, you know, in any way, that's my cat. Go away, cat. See, it's live television. There we go. So, yeah, I mean, you see, the one thing which is really strange and which the medical profession have said, because they don't believe it either. And actually, I'm going to show you something. This is my file I've just been given by the lawyers. That gives you an idea of what they've been up to. And the one thing that never got injured was my voice, despite all the other stuff. And so I've only very recently thought, actually, there's a reason for that. And
I was going to say, let me hear what you think.
So it's, that thing, and I can talk, as you say, intelligently about things. So that none of that got injured either. So the reason I think I still have my voice and that imagination is because other people need to hear it. And I passionately believe in that. So much so that since I've met you actually, I've developed a speaker's course called Find Your Voice. And it was something I was talking on a men's mental health summit. And I like to be slightly challenging. So I was like, listen, I'm standing on the front line here. I'm just one voice. Anyone who's listening, you've got a story too. Come and join me and tell that story. And it's very powerful. So I kind of thought, well, I can help people find their voice so that they can tell it. They can do it for healing purposes. So if you can actually verbalize and you can spread what happened to you, but now this is that. I think that's so powerful. So that's quite exciting.
That's what I think. As I said that, as I made the comment earlier in the conversation where I remarked on your intelligence level for considering the kind of damage you've had to the brain, that is what was revealed to me, that your voice is one of the reasons you've been restored. You have a lot to share. You have a lot to tell. You have a lot of people to encourage.
And do you know what, that nothing actually gives me more satisfaction and joy than doing that. Now, I can I can compare that to when I was a commercial lawyer. I had lots of I had lots of money. I had lots of material things. At the time, I was really unhappy, which is why then I went off and became a kite surfing instructor, because that's what I like to do. Um,
By the
so
way, I don't mean to interrupt you.
yeah,
Can you still do that?
um, I would love to. Uh, I started snowboarding before the accident, and my medical team were like, "Don't do it." And of course, at that time, I was like, "Don't tell me what to do." I didn't do it though, which is good, because my neurologist, who I saw a week or two ago, he said, "You cannot bang your head. You can't even stand up and bang it on the door. You said you are." That part is so fragile. Please be very careful,
That's
because
what
if
I
it,
thought.
yeah, he said, if it goes a second time, it's going to be, you're going to bring all of that, all the breaks back effectively.
So you can do it, but it's not worth the risk. You
Yeah, I
still have
mean,
the physical capability. It's just you have to really um, measure your risks before you take them.
it is. And,
Got it.
to be honest, I'd be doing lots of jumps and somersaults in the air. Now, I'd effectively, as they say, plow the field, which means you just go up and down, which is fine. I trust me, just having the sensation is enough. I don't need to do fancy stuff. Just
Right.
having the freedom to do that. So yes, I'm going to be careful, I promise.
Good. And you made this declaration on television, so you need
That's
to
it.
honor your promises.
Exactly. I can't cope with people saying, "Do you know, I told you so."
I'm so sorry. You were going to tell me something and I
Oh,
interrupted
no, no,
you,
no,
but
no,
it
no.
just occurred to me to ask you and I didn't want to forget.
Oh, to be honest, hey, we can take it as it goes. So I can't even remember. So that's the benefit of having a bang on the head.
Okay, so you and your wife were taken to the hospital, and for 10 days, you didn't know where you were. You were
Mm.
just, you were
Well,
just a body laying there going through medical x-rays, surgeries, and you're oblivious the entire time.
correct.
Can you imagine? I can't fathom what it's like to go like, I cannot tell you what I did the last 8 years, days. I don't know where I was, what I did. And you have no memory of anything at all, unconsciously or consciously during those 8 days. Nothing.
Nothing at all. The closest I get is when I get flashbacks from my PTSD. Now they're not Hollywood ones where the screen goes all wobbly, and it's not and it's not like that. What it is actually is it's sensations and emotions. So that's what puts me back in the site, because I have, when I get triggered, which is by loud noises or metallic things, it puts me back there in a mental or sensation capacity. So I have a feeling of being very tightly squeezed, because effectively I was packed into a space which was not meant for my size. And so I have that sort of feeling also, which I found out from my mum, great mums. When I was in the ICU, I kept trying to, when I was starting to wake up, I kept trying to get out of bed. So they had to actually strap me in. So of course, that doesn't really help, because you're
Wow.
like, where am I? And I can't move. So, and a funny story, because you need to have some funny things.
Yes, yes. Because we're on the edge of our seats right now.
Exactly. Well, a couple of funny things. First of all, I really wanted to pee, and I was thinking, and they said, well, here's the bottle, do it laying down. I was like, I can't pee laying down. It's not feel right. And so they're like, well, just do it. And I'm like, I can't. And so a male nurse came over and said, hey, I know what it is. And I said, I want to stand up. She said, let's stand the man up. So I did. So I was like, thank you. And he says, well, you have to go really carefully, Mr. Rogers, because you have got a broken neck. I'm like, what? that's my earliest news flash. And then I can't remember anything else. So that was kind of weird. The second one was, because you're in ICU, all the beds face the central nurses thing. And I sort of woke up and the male nurse came and I said, I don't like it here. Can you move me to another room? He said, well, why? I said, because people keep looking at me and it feels weird. And he's like, oh, okay. And I said, and I've finished my gym session. Can I go home now? And he says, gym session? I said, yeah, look. And because I could see all the metal work around me. So I kind of thought that I was on the bench press and that I'd been forgotten. He said, no, you need to stay there, Mr. Rogers. And that's it. So, and the final, now this will make you laugh. They eventually gave me a mirror because they wouldn't give me a mirror for a long time, because effectively all this side of the face had fallen down like a stroke. And so they didn't want me to see that. And my face was pretty cut from the windscreen. But they eventually did give me a mirror. And when the airbag goes off, you have these two black eyes. I was like, I look like Captain Jack Sparrow. And and Johnny Depp, Johnny, if you're watching, thank you. You've made such an impact that I couldn't remember who I was, but I certainly could remember you.
So funny. I am so glad that we can be laughing about something as serious as this, and which is why I love your energy, and which is why I want to do this. I feel that most people would have slumped into depression, and it didn't sound like any of that was an issue for you. Am I correct?
You are, because if you have, and this is what, and it's documented in some very heavyweight books, that why do certain people heal and get over trauma, and why do certain people not? Well, the answer is very simple. If you have something to aim for, a goal, something which is on the other side. Now, I used to do martial arts when I was younger, and for our gradings, we'd have to break the board. And anyone who knows martial arts, if you punch at where the board is, you're going to break your hand. But if you punch behind to a point behind the board, you're still accelerating when you hit it. So you haven't finished your punch. Why I say that is because it's important to have something the other side of whatever you're thinking, and you keep your eyes and your focus on that. And the rest of it is kind of like the board breaking as you go through. Yes, depression is always an option, and there are plenty of people who go down that road. I don't resist depression, but in a way I do. I don't want to go down that road, and I therefore have made a choice to pick another road. And before the accident, I was actually just about to go and do my whitewater rafting guide exams. And there I was sat in the rehab center talking to the doctor, said, look, I got to be out of here in a couple of weeks. I've got to go to America. And she's like, okay, Paul, whatever. She just listened. And she reminded me of that about a year and a half ago. And she said, do you remember when we were talking? I was like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Because I didn't realize how serious I was injured, because no one told me. They just said, oh, you've got multiple fractures and you've got a break in your neck and a break in your back. I mean, what does that actually mean? And so I didn't really understand. And because the brain was not capable of actually taking that information in. And I'm a great believer that the brain is a very powerful tool, and it will only let you see what it thinks you are strong enough to see.
Right.
So it protects you on that, saying, well, actually, you're not in a state where this information is going to help. Because my PTSD didn't start when the accident started. It started about a few months afterwards, because
When
that
you
time
became
there,
conscious.
yeah, exactly. And at that point, it started to realize, and because the tide was going out and it started to realize, oh, and people were telling me things. They're like, this is what it is, and that's that. And I started seeing scans and CT scans and stuff, and the whole picture became pretty clear.
I think that's why they say ignorance can be bliss.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, I totally agree. But the only problem is that we as a race are curious. We're not, we always want to just peek round the corner and say, no, I don't want to, just let me have a look at a little bit. So, and I think that's a good thing to be curious, because society says, oh, curiosity killed the cat. I can guarantee you that curiosity did not kill the cat. Falling off a ledge might have killed the cat, but curiosity wasn't what actually killed it.
Mhm.
And I think that's how we evolve. That's how we're innately curious.
So this accident happened 7 years ago, Paul,
2
right?
years.
2 years,
2 years.
2 years ago?
Yep. It's 2018.
Wow. So, okay, you were in the hospital unconscious for 8 days. You came out of your unconscious state 8 days later. How long after that did you leave the hospital?
Well, and I love the medical thing here before I say whatever I'm going to say. So, like a good lawyer, I'm getting my defense in first. So, um, the decision was that where we lived was far too remote and there was no family. My wife has all her family where we are now, so they made the decision that we needed to move hospitals, and my wife was to go off to a hospital and I was going to go somewhere else, to a rehabilitation center, because she had to have her skull put back in. So that's really quite unpleasant, but there we go. So it was like, I'd say 48 hours after waking up, I was put in a van and shipped down with my dad. My dad was my carer. They said, right, give him this, take that if it hurts. And my dad's like, okay. So we did the 5-hour journey down to the place, which even on a good day is pretty tiring. I then realized when I came out of the sort of the ambulance van, I tried to walk and I realized I couldn't, because I couldn't remember how to walk. There was nothing wrong bone wise, but my mind just couldn't remember it, which was where it started to dawn on me. This is actually a little bit serious. See, English master statement, a little bit serious. But I didn't really understand. They put me in a room upstairs and they said, if you want to go to the toilet, you make sure you ring and ask for us. I wanted to go for a pee, so I just got up and did it. And they were furious when they go, yeah, it's like, why do you want to disturb anyone? And they're like, oh my God, if you've fallen over. I said, hey, don't worry, I sat down. They're like, no, you. So I then did what I was told, but that was part of not understanding. That was not because I was being rebellious or anything. I didn't know.
Also, when you're the patient, you think the more independence that you can display and show yourself is a sign of your recovery.
Exactly. And that is not the case. Being British, most of it is like stiff upper lip and, we'll walk this off. And I thought I could just outrun the injury effectively, but you can't. And that took a long time to sink in, because all my usual coping mechanisms through life didn't have any impact on this. I had to relearn a whole new, different set of tools.
So the majority of your injuries were to the head and you broke
Yes.
your neck. Did you break any of your limbs? Did you break your arms, your legs, your
No. I broke the two lumbers in the back, in my back, because effectively my head got rotated because whatever hit it came into the cabin, it spun it round, and it spun me. And because the seatbelt stops, it then went for the weakest bone, so it broke the ones near the seatbelt effectively. But I went.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe we're out of time. Would you say that your airbags played any part in protecting you?
If I wasn't in that vehicle and with the airbags, for sure, we wouldn't be talking now. So it was a new car with new technology. So an emphatic yes.
Okay.
And if the company is watching, I will drop. No, but it's definitely down to that.
Paul, why does the time fly when you're telling stories?
Well, it's quite a lot to pack into a small time. So
we'll keep doing it.
Yeah, no, it's as long as people want to hear, and as long as people. I don't tell it for people to give me pity and sympathy. I don't want that. That's the worst thing.
That's why I am doing it either.
Yeah, and I don't want what I want is hope and courage and inspiration. That's the tale, actually, which I'm telling. So yes.
Anything you want to leave with the viewers before I wrap it?
Yes. You have to believe in yourself, because you have strengths which can overcome a railway accident. I'm no superhuman. We all have this inside. It's just that when you get to that chance where there's adversity, you will connect with it, and it's all there. You don't have to look outside. It's all in there.
Thank you, Paul. Well said. I love your stories. They definitely inspire and encourage me. And I thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired. And if Paul being T-boned and dragged by a train and smashed up is not enough inspiration, then I don't know what is. But I hope you enjoyed him and he is inspiring you as much as he is inspiring me. And because his story is so powerful, as soon as I can, I'll be sharing him with us again. And I thank you for continuing to watch my show, and I will see you next time.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.